We often get asked, how do we get so much done so quickly at such a high quality? And the answer is actually pretty simple. We have more very productive hours in each day. The number one thing that keeps entrepreneurs, course creators included, from getting things done is not capability or motivation or ambition. It's distractions. A distraction being anything that keeps you from giving your full attention to the highest priority tasks that have the biggest impact on the success of your business. And those distractions could be obvious, like running errands or playing video games, but they aren't always bad things. In fact, most entrepreneurs that struggle with being productive have too many important things to do, so they bounce between a dozen different tasks at the same time, doing a lot of hours of work, making a little bit of progress on a lot of things, but not really getting anything done. And I know this better than anybody because I've struggled with it for years. I've read all sorts of books on procrastination, habits, ADD, productivity, perfectionism, and tried dozens of different planners. And here's what I've found with my years of pain and research. The two biggest factors that have impacted my productivity are 1, self-accountability, and 2, clear priorities. Self-accountability is like being forced to eat your vegetables for an entrepreneur. We became entrepreneurs so we didn't have to listen to a boss and could do things our own way. The problem comes when your way isn't working. It is surprisingly easy to become a slave to your own freedom when that freedom becomes chaos. We see discipline and structure as a sort of cage, limiting our choices, when in reality, they're basically those bumpers that you can put up at a bowling alley. You still get the flexibility to choose, but it keeps you from going down the gutter. The problem with most of us entrepreneurs is we don't have anybody to enforce discipline and structure on us. That's the job of a manager or a boss, which means you have to be responsible for being accountable to yourself. You are your own boss, so you need to act like it. And second, clear priorities. When you have a million things to do, as most entrepreneurs do all the time, most people choose to work on whatever feels the best, whatever sounds the most interesting or that they're most inspired to work on, or even just something that makes them feel busy. The problem is we don't always feel like doing what is most important. And if you haven't clearly laid out what the most important tasks are to accomplish for your business goals, well then everything is equally important. So the priority becomes everything, and when everything is the priority is nothing, which means there's no clarity on what you should be working on. As a side note, I have also found that perfectionism and confusing consuming information or research with being productive are also two big factors in killing my personal productivity, but I'm not going to cover those in this video. Because in order to help myself be more accountable to myself, as well as giving clarity as to what I should be working on throughout the day and the week, I have created this accountability report that I want to share with you guys, so if needed, you can use it as a tool to overcome the same challenges that I've had to. I recommend using every tool that I include for 1 to 2 weeks. After that, you can use what you've learned to decide which ones are worth your time to keep using and just stop using the others.
Hey guys, Stockton here. Real quick, if you want to download the exact productivity tracker that Dakota is going to show you how to use, go ahead and click the link in this description. And because this is in fact a Google Sheet, just let us know the best email to send that to. And immediately after you submit, we'll send that to your email and you can start using it and follow along in this video. That's it, back to Dakota.
To start, click the link that we provide below this video. It'll send you to this Google Sheet that you won't be able to edit. Don't request to edit it. It's the master copy that everyone has access to. Instead, come up here and click File, Make a Copy. This will make your own copy that you can then edit. These reports are designed to only work for 1 week, so I find it easiest to just make a new clean copy each week rather than trying to delete everything and reuse it. You can always come back to this link and make a clean copy, or just keep a clean master copy for yourself and then just make a copy of that. So how does this report work? You have 8 tabs down here, 1 for your weekly summary and 1 for each day of the week. Now yours will look empty like this, but I put in mock data so I can show you the process that I go through. Generally, I do this weekly planning session on Sunday night when I'm well rested and getting ready for the work week. I'll come back to these charts at the end, but I start out by putting the dates for the week, as they are nice to come back to and know what week I'm working on. And then I do my weekly task dump, which means I come here to other tasks and just list every possible thing I think I could be working on this week. Don't stress too hard. You probably won't remember everything you have to do, and you don't need to. Things will come up during the week and you'll just add to this list. Once you can't think of anything else, look through all the tasks and think to yourself which of these tasks will have the biggest impact on the progress of my business. Select up to 5 and move them up here to top priorities. Don't worry too much about the order, but I would say to at least have the top priority be at the top. This is your foundation for the week, and you'll be referencing back to this during your other daily planning sessions. Also, these boxes are check marks, so you can click these whenever you finish a task if you'd like. Now, when you plan is up to you. Personally, I prefer to do it at night after resting for a couple hours, but there are times where I am too tired and it's the first thing I do in the morning. Try both, see what works for you, but plan on daily planning sessions. Click the tab of whatever day you're on, and first put in the date. Every single planning session, I start with that same task dump process, as this is a must for me. Usually Mondays look pretty similar to the weekly task dump you just did, but I always do it anyways just in case I remember something new. List all the things you can think of that you need to do, no particular order, as fast as you can. Take the top 3 that you think will have the biggest impact on your progress and put them in your priorities. Order them from 1 to 3. At this point, you have another good foundation, this time to make a rough plan for your day. There are daily tasks that I always have to do no matter what my priority is. Customer support, coaching, emails, stuff like that. Parker prefers to do this at the end of the day because he says it sucks the energy out of him and makes the rest of his day less productive. I prefer to do it in the morning because it helps me get the ball moving in the right direction and I don't have to worry about it later. To fill out the planner, I just change the background color depending on how much time I think I'll need for that task I'm working on, and label whatever it is I'm working on during that time window. I rarely stick to this exactly, it's more of a guide, but for some of you, it may be good to stick to the exact schedule. Now, personally, when I'm working on priorities, I sometimes find out that the task that I prioritized is kind of complex and made up of a lot of smaller tasks. This can be overwhelming and bring progress to a halt by trying to do too many things. So when I do feel overwhelmed, I come down here and break down the task even further. This process takes maybe 5 minutes and can help me recalibrate my focus. These headers will auto-populate based on what you type up here. Now, this work log section is probably the most important part of the entire report. It can be pretty tedious, but has the biggest payout. This is where you guys are tracking your calories to find out what you need to cut. When you start working on a task, you type it right here. I suggest all caps. Click on the box under Start and do a timestamp. Command-Shift semicolon for Mac and Control-Shift semicolon for PC. This will basically have you clock in on that task. Whenever you finish or decide to switch tasks, click on the box under Stop and execute another timestamp. This will show you exactly how much time you worked on that specific task. Type in the new task you're switching to, all caps, and timestamp again. The more diligent you are with this process, the more beneficial it will be. When I first started doing this, it was very tedious because I was switching tasks so often, sometimes only for a couple minutes. This was a problem because starting and stopping tasks too often drains your energy and never lets you get in the zone. Reducing the amount of times I switched to and from tasks alone doubled my productivity. Anytime I considered switching tasks, it had to be a conscious decision, not just chasing the shiny object. I had to pause and think first, is it even worth doing the stupid timestamp thing to start a new task, or should I just finish what I'm working on? And if it was worth starting a new task, I had to check it against the other priorities I already laid out for myself. If it's not already on your daily or weekly priority list, it better be very urgent to trump everything else. In fact, to train myself, I would actually require myself to manually adjust my priorities, remove the least important one and add this new one to the top, and move everything else down, as well as going back and adjusting my weekly priorities. It seems like a waste of time, but not being intentional with my time was actually having a much bigger negative impact on my productivity. However, there are many times where you will have to bounce from one task to another. That's life. But when you are able to pick it back up, copy the original task, paste it on a new line, and timestamp it again. It's very important that they are the exact same. Spelling, capitalization, spaces. If anything changes, it will create a new category in your graphs instead of combining the time worked on them. You can be as specific or general as you like with your task categories. The more specific, the more categories you'll have at the end, but the more detailed report you'll have. You can even get as specific as taking bathroom breaks if you'd like. At the end of the day, you'll be able to see your total hours worked up here, as well as a breakdown of what tasks took what percentage of your time that day. These visual representations of what you spend your time on are extremely valuable. It's an exact breakdown of what food you've put in your stomach. We tend to forget that cupcake we ate, but it's usually what's keeping you from being as productive as you'd like. This is a crucial time to come face to face with your efforts and decide if you can improve or not the next day. You have to be self-accountable. and you might have an uncomfortable realization of how much time you actually waste. I know because I did. Don't get discouraged or burn yourself out by trying to fix everything all at once. Just focus on small improvements day by day. They add up over time, and you in 2 years will thank you for your efforts. Now you'll want to do the same process I just showed you every day. Do a task dump, prioritize those tasks, and do the planning during your planning session. If your daily priorities have deviated, adjust those and make sure to update it. And then throughout the day, timestamp when you start and stop every task. This shouldn't take more than an hour combined throughout the day. And then after a full week of timestamping in and out, you can come back to the weekly tab and see your summary. Your total hours and minutes worked, your average work hours per day based off of an average 5-day work week, which means working weekends will help this average go up. This graph shows total hours and minutes worked per day, which is good to gauge how consistent you are being. And this one is an entire breakdown of how much time you've spent on every task that you did that week. If you have multiple categories of the same name, it's because there was a slight difference somewhere in your reporting, like I mentioned before. And now you get to step back into your boss shoes and ask yourself, was I working on the right things this week? Did I use my time effectively? Does my time spent align with my priorities? And ultimately, did those tasks I spent my time on this week have a productive impact on the progress of my business? If it didn't, you need to recalibrate, figure out what to improve, and get ready for a better week. Now, like I said, it might seem like this in itself will suck up a lot of time, and it might, especially in the beginning, but even if it took me 2 hours to plan and I only worked 6 hours a day, those 6 hours would be more productive than 20 hours of me just fumbling through stuff. You're welcome to skip as much as you'd like or be as diligent as I laid out here, but if you only did this full process for 2 weeks, I guarantee you'll get a taste of what it's like to be extremely productive. But it is up to your judgment to determine whether or not increasing your productivity is a task that you should prioritize and is worth the time investment. Some of you may already be diligent and organized enough to not need it, but if not, you do have these tools at your disposal. And as always, if you have any further questions, please let us know.